Hello ladies and gents, this is another video brought to you by Ants Hood, and today is the second part of my new ant keeping season video because it was just too much to cover in the first video, so I split it down into two. Now I'm going to go straight on to my ants that have just come out of hibernation before I move on to my new ants that you haven't seen yet, or definitely on YouTube anyway. But I think we'll start with Formica fusca. Got it out in the end. For a native UK species, these ants are huge. They're massively compared to your Lagus nigers, and as I generally live in the Midlands, that's all we get, where these are more prominently down south. I was on a military training area once and I seen them getting raided by slave makers, which was super interesting. But I'll talk about that more in a bit and you'll know why. Those last couple of photos in this video are from when I first got them around September. Now, this is the first time I've ever seen a queen taking a nenitic out of its cocoon or its pupae, so I thought this was really interesting. I haven't really featured them on my channel, and I definitely haven't done a dedicated video towards them yet, but once I get some more workers, I swear I will put a care video up for these. I have got plans for these going forward, but yet again, when I talk about other stuff going forward in this video, you'll know what I mean. I think this video was taken around September last year, I can't quite tell you, but either way, she went into hibernation not long after this, so I didn't expect any brood development or anything like that. But one thing I did notice about this species, in the foundation stage at least, is they're very, very skittish. I kind of find that with a lot of Formica species. I'll talk about that in the next lot I'll talk about in a second, but they're very, very skittish. So if you have got a foundation colony, I suggest you put them somewhere they're not going to get disturbed, not going to get much vibrations, because I think that they get stressed out quite a fair bit. Now, my wife finished off the hibernation period for me, and when I came back a week later, she took them out of the last fridge. I got greeted with this, and she's laid eggs, which is great news. The cockroach and stuff I put in when I did a clean up on Friday, last Friday should I say. But if you can see here, she's got a nice healthy bunch of eggs, and if you look at her abdomen, it's nicely swollen up, which tells me that she's probably, her ovaries are going into overdrive, which means she's hopefully going to lay some more eggs. So we should see this growing quite good, growing well. I kind of misled you on these ones because my Formica Barbies, I didn't actually hibernate. I got them in end of October, I think, or start of November, and it was a bit late in the season to start hibernating them. I did speak to somebody that's in the know about this species, and they said don't bother hibernating them, just leave them as they are because it's too late in the season. So I have. Now, over this period I've not laid any eggs at all, but I have lost 3 workers. Now, she's still got a number of workers, so it's not a massive concern. If you look here, her abdomen's swollen up as well, which kind of tells me that she's due to lay eggs. So fingers crossed, she's got the workers to look after them. She'll lay some eggs soon. And I don't know what it is about this video, but words are hard today. Now, she's very skittish as well. I mean, I took off the red filter and she zoomed into the tunnel here, so that's why I did this video with the red filter on. Just be mindful, she's very, very skittish, and they need to be left somewhere vibration free and left alone to let them do their stuff, otherwise she'll never lay again. So I kind of leave her be, to be honest. She's also in nature a victim to the slave makers, a bit like the other Formica fuscas, so that is relevant, and I'll talk about that going forward. But yeah, really interesting species. I hope she picks up. Yet again, she's very little featured on my channel, but I will do a care video once she picks up worker numbers and stuff. These are my Myrmica rubras. Now, they did feature a little bit last year. I think more on the negative side of their life, because if memory serves, half of them got out and then they had a population crash because I never recovered the workers that legged it. And this is the first time I've looked at them since coming out of hibernation. Now, I have instantly noticed that water's really yellow. I do have a small white-tongue nest by Ant Boy, which might be good for these, so I might move them into it. But if we look closely at them, they do still have quite a fair few workers, not a lot, maybe 50 or so. But the queens have already blasted out eggs. You can just see them there. And there's one of the queens right in the middle of the screen now. So they've blasted out eggs, which is really, really good and positive news. You can see the remains of a cockroach there that my wife fed them at some point. So they're all right. They're taking the protein, they're taking the food. They seem fairly active, and there's a big pile of eggs. So I'm quite happy with them. I'm hoping that they grow really well this season, because I'd love to do a care video on these as well and actually do a proper in-depth video look, an episode look into them. Now, these are fairly easy to keep, even though I had a bit of a disaster with them last year. I mean, come back from work and one of the tubes in the heat had popped out, and then they all just upped and gone out the window. I think I caught them just before they started moving a large amount of the brood, but I think most of the brood had gone, but the queens hadn't, so I was quite lucky. But yeah, fingers crossed, going forward I can get the booming population and you'll see these a bit more. Now, believe it or not, I'm actually quite looking forward to seeing my nigers again, because I find them really interesting. They're an absolute pain to keep. They'll escape if you can, and they're always looking for ways of escaping, but they're so much fun. Now this is that Chinese nest that I absolutely hated, if you remember rightly. It was just terrible. There was holes in it everywhere. They were getting out left, right and Chelsea, but now I secretly like it. Shh, don't tell anyone. Now the reason why I've actually turned my ways around is because once you block up all the holes, it's not a bad nest. Yes, I modified it, I put a red film on it. Yes, they do get out and I've had to block it up with cotton wool, but they're doing really well in there, to be fair. Now I know they're Nigers and I know that they'll put up with most things, but they seem quite happy. The honey is leaked out of the feeder because the feeder wasn't connected properly. It's happened to a couple of them actually, including the biformical ones, so I'm not going to hold it against my missus, but she used to put the lids on properly. But anyway, so they've leaked out, so I've had to clean it out, and that's what I'm doing at the moment. Now these has been fast forwarded because it goes on forever when I'm cleaning them out, but you can see that all the top left corner, all the discarded pupae and stuff like that, I think that's from what either didn't survive the winter or just the rubbish pile that they've made up, so I do clean that out in a bit. But back to this nest, it is not too bad. I actually quite like it now. You can see where I've blocked up the cotton wool. You can see where I've got some insulation tape to block up the light getting into it as well to keep it dark. I don't understand this obsession with acrylic nests having a red filter top, but then you've got white light coming in through the sides. I don't understand it. Why not black it all off or block it all off so light doesn't get in apart from the top through the red filter? Then the ants wouldn't get stressed. Don't ask me, I'm just an average Joe guy, but that's my thoughts on it. But anyway, I digress. Unfortunately, one of my Malaysian Nest colonies did die over winter. I'm not sure if you remember them from last year. They were the ones that I moved into that eBay nest that had the outworld attached to it. Similar to this, but like the nest goes up the side rather than out along the bottom. I know what I mean. I'll put a link in the top right corner now. There you go. So they died, unfortunately. It's one of those things. They were kept in the same fridge with all my other ants, and them and another species died, but excuse me, but I don't think I did anything wrong. I just think it's one of those things, to be fair. This is one of the test tubes that I've still got in a test tube. This is about 2 years old now, believe it or not, and I've still got them in that large test tube. I need to move them out, but I don't think I've got a nest for them yet. But they're doing really well as well. They're scrambling all over each other. I've now connected them up to the other eBay nest that I reviewed, but they haven't moved into it yet. And you know what Nigers like to move in the right panes. But I'm looking forward to seeing these guys again this season. Let's move on to Malaysia's Flavius. I've never really kept these before, ever. I've never been able to collect them during nuptial flights because I've never seen them. And then in September, I was down on the west coast somewhere in a beer garden. Believe it or not, I know it's a distant dream now, but a beer garden. And there was loads of them flying around, so I collected them all up. Now, this was one of them. As you can see, she's completely bone dry, so I moved her into a test tube, but I didn't know she had eggs. But as you can see there, she left some eggs. So I had to get them out and put them into the new test tube with her because there was no point in getting her to move themselves because she's already in that test tube and stressing her out. So I'm literally going to get this toothpick and see if I can scoop them out. Now, if you can zoom in here, you should just be able to make out the eggs. Yeah. Now, eggs naturally stick together, obviously through evolution rather than by design, but so they can be carried in bulk around from A to B. They don't be carried individually. So I'm kind of trying, you see me kind of fishing around, trying to get them to stick. Now, obviously I'm doing this while trying to look around the camera, so I didn't quite move it out. But if you notice there, I knocked them and they fell right down to the bottom. I think that's when I clock it, that using a toothpick, or I think it's a cocktail stick actually, isn't going to work. So I modified my tactic a little bit. What I had to do was get the cocktail stick that I'm using to try and get them out and wet the end of it. Now, you'll see it in a second anyway, but just as I wet the end, they stick to it more now, and I can just quickly, lightly touch them and then pick them up off onto the cocktail stick, if I can get my words out today. I'm struggling, but I don't know why I'm waving it around inside there for. I think I was trying to get it to show the camera. Don't ask me, I'm no guru when it comes to filming by any means of the word, but you can just see that the eggs are all on the end. Then ever so lightly, I just tap them, not tap them is the right word, but I just lightly touch the side of the test tube and they just all fall off relatively easily. Now, I've not checked this queen yet, just rolled it off. See how I rolled it there so I didn't crush any of the eggs? Now, I've not checked them to see how she's getting on with them, if she's collected them up, moved or anything like that. I've just let her be because obviously I picked her up by wind to put in this test tube and then moved the brood by hand. So It's not ideal, and it wouldn't be a method that I'd advise for everybody to use, but hopefully she'll be okay. I'm afraid it's that sad news time where we talk about the ones that have died. Now, luckily, I've only had 2 colonies die. One was Malaysian Nest, which I talked about earlier in the video, and this is the setup here. I don't know why I didn't put that video in before, picture in before, but there you go. It's here now. And the other one, which is more upsetting, is my Kapus colonies. Now, I love this little colony. I really did, but unfortunately, she passed away over winter, so it is what it is. I probably will look at getting some new ones to replace her, because I do actually like that species because they're huge, but I'll have to wait and see. Now, I don't often put new species directly on my channel, but I have to with these because they're such an interesting species, and these are not the only ones that I'm showing today that I wouldn't normally show, but I am busting to tell you about these ants. I've picked myself up some Formica sanguini, or the slave maker ants. I think I pronounced that right, don't hold it to me. I got these from Ant Antics. By all means, check out the website, it's really cool. They've got loads of little weird species like this, and the next species I'm going to talk about is going to be like this. When I say weird, I mean a bit different from your standard ants. I'm not going to talk about these now because I am going to do a care video about them in the near future. For these next ants, I've been building myself up to say this: Strong Ilothus, Testaceus, and Parasitic Testorium. God damn it! Strong Ilothus, Testaceus, and a host Testimorium cuspidum. Like the slave makers, these are completely different to anything I've kept before because I've actually got a queen that's a parasite on another queen. They are both in there. Don't ask me which one's which yet because I haven't got a Scooby-Doo, but by the time I do a care video for this, I will know who's who and what's what. Now, you can definitely tell there's 2 different workers, but that's a queen and that's a queen, but I don't know which one's which, so I need to do my research on that one. But nice healthy pile of brood, fingers crossed, gonna get a lot from this colony. I'm really excited to have a parasite as well. Ooh. Now, as I said in my last video, my messes circulators really made me want to get other messes, so I decided to get some Barbies. Now, I did originally get these with workers, but unfortunately there was a mix-up with the website, whatever, but I ended up getting 2 queens with no workers and no eggs. Because they'd just come out of hibernation. But as you can see here, I have now got Nanitics, so happy days, they're doing really well. So yet again, care video coming soon about the Barbarous, but not yet because they're not quite ready to be manhandled around for videoing. So wait out for that one. This is another queen I've had for a short while. I'm not showing off yet, but I am now. It's my Ideromix purpueus. I think that's pronounced right. Probably not, or commonly known as the meat ant because I can't pronounce Latin. Now I think it's the ant lady that got us to blame for this because I've seen her colony of these and fell in love with them, so I had to go get them. So I've picked them up, I've had her for a short while, she's got a nice healthy pile of brood. Yet again, care video to follow and interest video on her. Super excited, she's gorgeous, can't wait for her to develop the young. Now this is a complete cover of all the ants that I've currently got in my ant cave. There is some more that I still want to get, such as my Asian marauder ants or my Carabera, because mine sadly died, but that's going forward. Anyway, that's it for today then guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you in my next one.